This might be the most peculiar thing about Elon Musk. How many children does he have?
I have heard people estimated at 100 or more. Elon Musk feels like his genes are especially good. And I don't think you can overrate the presence of just narcissism.
This sounds especially insane.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Sanity podcast. Dave, Briggs, Alisyn Camerota, talking about one of our favorite subjects, arguably the most intriguing man on the planet, Elon Musk. It has been a rough first 100 days for Donald Trump, even more so for Elon Musk.
And for all of us,
and for the world, Elon Musk. Quite frankly, for the world.
Yeah.
But for Elon Musk, we just saw the numbers from Tesla. Net income down 70% from a year prior. The stock is still down about 50% from its high.
Just so I understand, because you specialize in this. When you say the net income down 70%, that means that 70% fewer people are buying the cars?
Total money they made from the same quarter a year prior.
Okay.
Profits from a year prior down 70%. This is a crash unlike anything we've ever seen in automotive or American company history. And it's really because of Elon has become arguably the most divisive person in the world, right there with of course, Donald Trump. But the numbers are staggering for Elon.
Yes, but I fail to have any sympathy for him. I fail to worry about, who cares that Tesla is down? Good.
The only reason you should is because there are pension funds, 401ks around the country, around the world, that do rely heavily on Tesla stock.
They can move into another great electric car. I guess my point is that, did he think there would be no consequences? I think he did, actually, come to think of it, because there are people who operate at such a privileged orbit, and God knows orbit is the right word, that he maybe thought that he could come in and destroy all sorts of people's jobs and people's lifestyles and slash government and end USAID for people around the world, and that there wouldn't be consequences. But, guess what? There's consequences. Okay, great. I'm glad gravity still holds.
Perhaps there is a long-term positive impact to Doge in that we do examine waste and or fraud, but he has now cut $150 billion from the federal budget, less than 1% of his goal of $2 trillion in cuts. I can't help but wonder your original question. Did he not anticipate this? The one question I always wondered is, he spent $250 million to get Donald Trump elected. The one question most in the financial world thought is, okay, who buys Teslas? Democrats and left-leaning people in the United States. That is the portion of the country who hates him more than any other. These numbers from CNBC. He has a net minus 82 approval rating among Democrats. Minus 82. There is nothing even close to that type of number in politics or business. One more, Democrats still love EVs. Plus 20. This is CNBC number. They are negative 74 on Elon Musk. So they love EVs. They hate Tesla.
Doesn't surprise me.
I don't think there's ever any coming back for what could have been one of the great American companies.
Good. I'm glad that there are, again, consequences. I don't feel sorry for a second for Elon Musk. And I think that what he did with Doge was cruel. I don't think that, yes, is there government waste? Of course, everyone agrees on that. Was this the way to go about it? No. Going in and locking people out of government buildings, slashing people's jobs, giving them a day to clean out their offices. These are long-term, some of these apolitical bureaucrats who were just functionaries slaving away, doing the work of our country, and that he went in and cruelly cut. Did he think about their families? No. And so, here again, I just think that he was the worst possible person to assign this job, because I think that, as we've learned, there's something, I don't know that he has a moral fiber or a consciousness streak. And so, as we've seen in some of his personal life as well.
Yeah, no real human understanding for Elon Musk, which may end up being his great downfall. Now, he is still the richest man on the planet, but you could argue anyone who gets too close to the sun in Donald Trump's orbit, this happens. Michael Cohen, Rudy Giuliani, who was once America's mayor and is now a bankrupt punching bag joke of a man, Sean Spicer. You could. How
his
about
ex-wives? Look at his
Mike
poor
Pence
wives.
was a future president of the United States.
Says Mike Pence.
Well, I think he had a shot.
I
We'll
don't.
never see him, hear from
No.
him
Oh,
again.
I forgot about Mike Pence until you just mentioned that.
Unless you are family.
Yeah.
Devastation comes for you.
Okay, but I'd also like to point out it doesn't work out that well for his ex-wives, who are publicly humiliated on the public stage because of his massive cheating. Though I'm sure they're financially rewarded somehow. It's not just his business relationships. He is without friendships, and this is interesting, Dave. That reminds me, you predicted that in the inevitable dissolution of the Elon Donald Trump relationship, which you predicted months ago would ultimately happen, you predicted that Elon Musk would win. Do you still think that Elon Musk is the winner here?
I do not. I don't see. Well, look, is Elon winning in one regard? He's still the richest man on the planet.
But
He
was
still
already
owns
before
2 or 3 of the
relationship.
most valuable companies on the planet, which
Okay.
will continue to thrive. X,
I just mean in
SpaceX,
his relationship
Neuralink.
with Donald Trump.
Sure, you're right on that behalf. Absolutely, I was wrong. Financially, he will continue to win, except for, of course, on the Tesla front.
He does all sorts of very peculiar things. And for my money, none more so than the amount of children that he is spreading throughout the world, 14 that we know of with different women. And we're going to find out about what he's thinking allegedly with this.
You need context there. He tunnels beneath Las Vegas. He has a rocket company. He has things that blow the mind, and yet you think the most intriguing might be the spreading of his
Seed. Yes, I do.
We have the perfect guest with us today. Elizabeth Bruning is a former writer for the New York Times and Washington Post. She now writes for The Atlantic and wrote a terrific piece called The Harem of Elon Musk. Elizabeth, it is great to have you because probably the most intriguing person on the planet. And as Allison said, this might be the most peculiar thing about Elon Musk. How many children does he have from how many wives? And how many
Or
can
women.
you name?
Not even wives, women.
Not wives,
Yeah.
women.
Wow, let's see. I believe he has 14 known children, but people who spoke to the Wall Street Journal for their expose on his childbearing habits suggested the number is much higher. I have heard people estimate it at 100 or more. That would surprise me, but it's definitely higher than 14. And so far, I think there are 4 women he's had children with. Let's see, possibly 5 with the addition of Ashley St. Clair, but I think it's 4. Yeah.
And the reason we don't know about all of these other children and women is because he makes his baby mamas sign NDAs, and he's very lawyered up, and he's litigious, and he does sue them if they speak. And there's also the powerful, as I've learned from, I believe it's your piece, that the powerful incentive, financial incentive for them not to speak. He gives them how much money, Elizabeth?
So Ashley St. Clair, who is the latest woman to have one of Elon Musk's babies that we know of, was paid $15 million and given a $100,000 per month living stipend. So I thought, am I going to have a baby? When I heard about that,
Dave would have a baby from that.
Yeah, I think we all would. It's unknown what he gave his other concubines. They're not his wives, his partners. But he does ask all of them, as you were saying, to sign non-disclosure agreements. So it's impossible to say what they're being paid. In the Wall Street Journal expose, one of Musk's aides told Ashley St. Clair that benefits flow to people who do good work. Unclear what that means in the context of having and raising his children, but it seems like there may be something like a pay scale involved.
From what we understand, how does he find these women?
Yeah, so it looks like he kind of casts a really wide net. I think Grimes he found on the internet. His first wife, I'm not sure how they met. Siobhan Zilis, who is one of his mothers, is apparently sort of his favorite. She accompanies him to official events at times. They met because she was an executive in his Neuralink company. He thought she was really smart, and that was the context in which they met. Ashley St. Clair, it's not clear to me how they met. It did come out that Elon Musk sometimes solicits women on Twitter to have his babies over Twitter DM. So it seems like he's really kind of working overtime to find people willing to have his children.
If you change your name on Twitter from Dave, I think that you stand a chance.
Hey, man.
I think you stand a
For
chance.
15 mil and $100,000 a month, I'm in.
I mean, it's also weird, Elizabeth, and that obviously it's ripe for comedy, but there's something very dystopian, I find, about this, and dark. And I mean, and hypocritical, wildly hypocritical, because let's remember that it's Republicans who have always championed family values. How is this family values? He doesn't acknowledge some of his children. He refuses to be on the birth certificate of some of his children. He pays off the women. He attacks them in court. He, as you know, he's estranged from one of his children, Vivian. I mean, this flies in the face of anything that any sane person sees as family values.
No, I completely agree. You know, the Republican Party, as you point out, has for a long time positioned itself as the party of family values and the party of supporting American families. This was in a lot of their campaign material this year or last year. I certainly have no problem with programs or policies that support families. But what Musk is doing obviously is extremely different than I think the typical Republican image of a family. He's not married to these women. He doesn't seem to feel a sense of duty or obligation to them, doesn't have relationships with, it seems, a lot of the children. And he has a totally different approach to family than I think the average Republican would endorse, in that he's not looking for like a source of love and commitment and stability in his life. He seems perfectly fine on his own. He's not looking for companionship or anything like that. And I think that's a unique and kind of strange approach to these relationships.
So there's the why. Why does he want so many children? What does it have to do with what's called pronatalism?
Elon Musk has tweeted many times and spoken many times about his notion that birth rate declines mean the future of human civilization is in danger. And it's true that birth rates are dropping all over the world. It seems to be associated with widespread technology and increasing wealth. And, you know, Musk has a point that in particular countries where birth rates are falling very quickly, there is the problem of an aging population, how a small population of young people who are working and doing production supports an extremely large population of elderly people. And this is something that, for example, South Korea, which I think has the lowest birth rate in the world, is dealing with right now. They're converting schools to old folks' homes and so on and so forth, because they don't have the children, but they do have lots of elderly people. So in that sense, it makes some sense to be concerned about your particular country's birth rate, especially as they fall into sort of precipitous decline. I don't think the future of the world or humanity is in danger at this point, but that is Musk's position. Now, he's also said to apparently at least one of his wives, to Siobhan Zilis, that he really wants smart people to be having children. So I think another aspect of this is Elon Musk feels like his genes are especially good. He believes himself to be especially smart. And therefore, I think, feels a sense of duty or obligation to the rest of us fools to seed the world with his extremely smart offspring.
This sounds especially insane, I think. And it's very hard. I think that, I mean, your piece on the natalist movement is fascinating. You went to this conference in, I believe, Austin, and it was fascinating to see the cross section of people who believe that Americans should be having more children. And as you point out, the left has not found its footing on this topic because the left doesn't, I guess, want to be judgmental about childless people. It feels it's very hard to disentangle the movement to have more children from, frankly, racism, I think, and white supremacy, because I'm old enough to remember when in the 80s and 90s, these were called welfare queens. When you would pay women, when women would get more welfare benefits, the more children they had. And Republicans hated that. And Ronald Reagan hated that. And Republicans said, cut off those benefits. You can't reward women for having more children. It's they're gaming the system. So how did they switch it on its head to now we will pay women $5,000 to have more children?
The baby bonus.
Yeah, the baby bonus.
Proposed by Donald Trump, reportedly.
And J.D. Vance.
Yes, J.D. Vance has been on the record arguing for a $5,000 child tax credit, and now there's this baby bonus proposal that came out from the Niskanen Center this week, and spurred a journalist to ask Trump about the baby bonus, where he said, it sounds like a good idea to me. I think that was his direct quote. I think you're exactly right that there was a period in time where Republicans were extremely bothered by the birth rate, especially among, as you point out, Black women. And that was a big part of welfare reform in the 90s, was rolling back aid for families with dependent children, AFDC, and so many of these programs that were sort of Great Society programs. At this point, it does seem like the pronatalism is heavily populated by just the sort of people that you're pointing out. The pronatalist movement is rich in all kinds of weirdos. And some among them are, I think, very easily described as racist, as white supremacists. So that is a presence in the pronatalist movement, such as it is. I don't think it's a particularly big movement. I don't think there are a lot of people who are concerned about this in the way that sort of fringe members of the right are. But I think it's worth noting that worldwide, plenty of countries have pronatalist initiatives, and the left in those countries doesn't seem to mind. European countries have pronatalist programs in a lot of cases, which just look like welfare programs. Basically, they look like baby bonuses, paid parental leave, a baby box, free healthcare, et cetera, et cetera. These are all things that make it easier, I think, for people to see their way clear to making this really big change in their lives.
And a baby box, by the way, is not a baby that arrives in a box or where you keep a baby.
I was going to ask.
It's what? It's where you get all of the goods that you need. When a baby is born, they give you the diapers, the formula, the little preemie clothes, or whatever you need, bottles. Those are expensive. I mean, asking people to have more kids is great in theory, but kids cost money, and more than $5,000, frankly.
At least $300,000 by the time they're 18 for a middle-income family. That's without college, without luxuries, without vacation. The estimate is around $1 million for a family of middle income to put through college. So this is problematic on many levels, not to mention the fact that we want to, well, at least the Republican Party wants to kick out millions who are here illegally, yet we want to incentivize women to continue to have more children. It is a baffling moment. What is the relationship, if any, between Elon Musk and the children?
And his own children.
Yeah.
He has children who he is spotted with more than others. So one of his children, who is a son he had with Grimes, he's been bringing to public events, and he has the kid right on his shoulders, or he's carrying the kid. The kid comes with him to the Oval Office for a photo op. That child, I don't know why that is his sort of favorite child, seemingly, or the child he associates with in public. That child's name I can't even pronounce. It's XAE. There's a number in it. Not sure how to pronounce that at all. But that's the child he takes with him. Vivian, as you pointed out, who is his daughter, has nothing to do with him. And from her prior remarks about their relationship before their estrangement, it didn't sound like they were in that much contact at all. Elon Musk, these people don't live, the mothers don't live together or even necessarily in proximity. So just imagine him trying to divide his time. It doesn't seem likely he has actual time for his kids.
There are reports that he wants to have all of them live together in a $35 million compound outside Austin, Texas. This is all just floating out there as reports. Vivian, though, might be the most consequential when you look at the evolution of Elon Musk. The transgender is what sent him, I guess, to the right politically and made
That's one of
him
the factors
go
that
on
we've
an
heard, yeah.
anti-woke crusade, from what we understand.
Yes, but here again, I'd like to point out that the family values that the Republicans preached and that I personally agree are the best way to raise a child are two-parent households. A two-parent household. Now, Republicans feel very strongly that it should be a mother and a father, or at least that's what they've said. And so here again, I mean, the fact that he doesn't live with them, he doesn't acknowledge some of them, he does it, he's cruel to Vivian. I mean, I don't understand how this is tolerated. And I know he wants to have them live on a commune. All of it sounds very Handmaid's Tale, very dystopian. He says that he calls his children a legion, okay? Not a family. Mm-hmm. He calls them a legion. He's told one of the baby mamas, the most recent one, Ashley St. Clair, that he wants to reach legion level of children before the apocalypse. Is this... This is not a sane person. I mean, I don't, he has a screw loose, no pun intended. Go ahead.
Yes. It's strange because he says he's worried about this population apocalypse and the sort of decline of human civilization. But it doesn't seem like there's actually an apocalypse on the horizon. I mean, it's possible that the human population shrinks and there will be sort of pangs associated with that, the aging populations being one of them. But if the human population shrank and leveled out, that wouldn't be an apocalypse. I mean, things would change. The human population has been much smaller before than it is right now, and everyone was fine. So I think his concerns about an apocalypse are a little overblown, and they're so overblown that it almost seems like it's a cover for something, right? This is how he describes his habit of having children, as being sort of a stopgap against the apocalypse. But I don't think it's altruistic. I don't think he's trying to save the world from civilizational decline. This seems like something that is about a kind of eugenics, about Elon Musk thinking his genes are superior to everyone else's. And I don't think you can overrate the presence of just narcissism.
Wow, that is extraordinarily well said. For good of the podcast, I'm just saying maybe.
Oh, I should have one of Elon. For funding.
What's your price?
Elon Musk. I don't have one for Elon Musk.
You don't have a price.
Nope. This uterus cannot be bought, even by Elon Musk. There, I said it.
I know Elizabeth's married, but Elizabeth, what's your price?
Oh my gosh. Well, he would have to convince my husband. so it's more like, what is Matt's price? I'd be in for the 15 mil, man. I could use that. I mean, that's enough to set my existing kids up for life.
See, that's commitment. I question your commitment. I really question your commitment to this podcast. Ashley, is there any relationship between Elon and the mothers? And have we ever known, is there any proof that Elon Musk has ever had an actual relationship?
Yes. So he was married to his first wife, Justine is her name, and they had several children together. And Elon Musk seems to have found that relationship important, at least for a time in his life, but clearly moved on. With Ashley St. Clair, the latest mother, they were dating in a sense, but based on the communications they had that she released to the Wall Street Journal, he was already telling her in the context of dating that he was having children with other women. So, I think it's a unique relationship, to put a euphemistic spin on it. And he has a baby mama who he favors among all the others, Siobhan. And he was, I believe, married to Grimes, but now they're totally estranged. And in fact, in sort of a feud. Grimes once contacted him in public on Twitter, begging him to respond to her because one of their children was having a medical crisis. Now, she didn't specify what was going on with the child, but Musk had been apparently just ignoring her, and Musk aides had been ignoring her. So I think that speaks to the relationship between Grimes and Musk at this point.
Wow. So here's what I can gather in this order. He has 14 that we know of, with first Justine Wilston, twins Vivian and Griffin, triplets Kai, Saxon, and Damien.
Okay.
Then with singer Grimes, X, as some call him, Lil X, XAE/12, Exa Dark Side Rail, Techno Mechanicus.
Stop.
Yep. Then secretly fathered twins, Strider and Azure,
Secretly?
with Siobhan Silas. Then Arcadia and Selden Lycurgus.
Help.
And finally, Romulus with Ashley St. Clair. And that's the 14, Alisyn, that we know.
Oh, and but as Elizabeth says, there's much more because he hires people as surrogates as often as he possibly
Thank
can.
God he's rich.
Well, I mean, it's interesting. No? It's interesting, Elizabeth, that you say that part of the birth rate decline is because of increasing wealth and widespread technology. He's responsible for that. Maybe instead of spreading his seed, he should try to work a little bit on the wealth disparity, the massive wealth gap, and the fact that people are on so much technology. But listen, at the end of the day, we're not going to solve this, except that he wants to go to Mars. Good. Be gone.
That ultimately may be his biggest goal for those that know him closest.
It's his
and what he's been
mission.
Tweeting about in the last several days.
It's his life mission. Go populate Mars. Enjoy. That's my general feeling. Elizabeth, while we have you, because of all of this, we ask our guests, every guest, for a dose of sanity. When you're covering stories like this and going to the pro-natalist conference with all sorts of, as you say, interesting characters and weirdos, how do you stay sane? What is your dose of sanity?
I think on this subject matter, it's just, it's the understanding that, in my view, in my personal opinion, the way to raise children is in a committed two-parent household where everybody's cohabitating, and the children receive a good deal of attention from the parents, and the parents are committed to one another. And I know people historically and currently, left and right, have tried to come up with a variety of different ways of arranging these relationships. There have been on the left communes, there has been on the right, the very far fringe right, polygamy, for example, in these sort of separatist communities that are extremely conservative, of like fundamentalist Latter-day Saints. And it seems to me that all of those efforts have failed to replicate the sort of gold standard of raising children in loving families, in loving homes. And that's what I keep on my mind.
Before we let you go, you covered theology as well at The Atlantic, and we are mourning, the world is mourning the Pope this weekend. I'm just curious, what is the role of future popes and religion in this country, given the extraordinary moment and divisiveness and downright religious devotion towards Donald Trump?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really depressing. I think the Christianity that Pope Francis left behind, in the United States at least, is sort of hopelessly riven by partisan politics. And I think for a lot of Americans, their partisan affiliation, their feelings about Trump are sort of, they take precedence over feelings about God. And so you have, I think, forming a kind of conservative practice of religion, especially Catholicism, sort of coalescing around Trump. J.D. Vance is a Catholic convert. There was a Eucharistic adoration at Mar-a-Lago. So they're definitely reaching out to this conservative Catholic community that was very much anti-Francis. And so I feel like the next pope, no matter who it is going to immediately be read by American Catholics as sort of either left or right. And that's, I think, unfortunate, because the Pope should speak to values that precede partisan politics, things that we all share in common. And I feel like the days of the Pope being read as kind of a spiritual father, as opposed to a political candidate or political leader, might be over. And I find that really sad.
Nailed it.
Yeah, Elizabeth, thank you. This has been a really, really helpful, weird, interesting conversation. And thanks for sharing your reporting with us.
And maybe Elon will hit us up after this. You don't know.
I think he will. I think he will. I think he will. Because
Dave.
he's clearly looking around, and Dave has made quite obvious that he's open for business.
Oh, thank you, Elizabeth. Really appreciate time.